to KDDP, Kuza Digital Discipleship Podcast. We're very excited to have you guys here today. It's been a minute. I know last month we did an amazing conversation and I hope that you followed. Now, in case you did not follow with us, please be sure that you are going to find us right there, www.kuzaapp.com. Please check us out and read all those things. Secondly, if you have your phone, your Android, your iOS, please make sure that you go to your stores and download the app so that you are able to connect with us. Good news is coming. We are updating sooner than you think, and so keep your eyes on that dial. Now, today we have an amazing conversation coming through, and right before I introduce that conversation, I want to introduce my amazing panel. Guys, I need you guys to introduce yourselves, just let people know who you are. And I know you probably said this very many times before, but there's always somebody that is watching us for the first time. So tell us your name and what you do, either here or wherever we may not know. I hope you don't have anything else you do, but it's due, by the way. So let me start with the lady now that she's the light in the darkness, as it were.
My name is Tiffany. Yes, I am a writer here at Kuza.
Right. Okay, that's Tiffany. Yes.
Yes, I'm just asking Ori, aka King Just, a pastor and a writer with Kuza.
All right, one and only, and it's been a long time coming to Kuza, so we really officially want to welcome you back to the TV live.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and you have a nice shirt.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and I'm Victor, venye napenda kuitwa Saddam, and I'm missionary in Nairobi.
All right. Well, a missionary in Nairobi now. For all of you unreached Nairobians, we have someone for you. And he will definitely sort you out. Now, today, guys, we need to nail this conversation because there's a blog post that was written and, of course, it sparked some attention. He led me on, she defrauded me. Now, Vic, you're the one who wrote this blog, and so I want you to just, in the next few moments, tell us what was going on in your mind as you were writing this thing. He led me on, she defrauded me. I'm feeling like we can't want to accuse my name, so anyway.
I didn't write it alone. It was a teamwork.
Okay.
So,
also, you share.
If there's any blame, you share. If there's any credit, you share.
50-50.
He's just being humble.
So, yeah.
Is the she the one you share the blame?
Yeah, she is the one. I think we have had this discussion for a very long while. And personally, I've had it with different people, raising it against me and also...
So against you, like, oh my defraud?
Yeah. Like, I don't know if there's any man who has never been accused of that. If you have never...
Did you defraud though? Honestly, really?
From what they said, I stand accused. Okay. I am guilty from what they say.
Okay.
And I think for me, I had now an analyzing of myself and asking myself what is the best thing to do.
Okay.
That again, if I have ladies who are friends, if I have men who are friends, and they think they are being led on.
So what are some of these things that then you would, as we begin this conversation, what made them think that you defrauded them? Probably that is something you're going to talk about. But define defraud and lead me on as we begin.
Yeah, so these are actions purported to make the other person believe that you are leading them or guiding them towards a romantic relationship.
Right.
So it appears that, or from that other person who is being led on, that the person leading on is trying to insinuate that eventually they will ask you out or not. And these actions vary. I notice it varies from individual to individual. And sometimes my biggest argument was it is mostly against men, all right? And it is because men are now portray certain characters, like opening the door, pulling the chair, all right, looking at you directly in the eye when they're speaking. And so someone will say, one of them told me that because you opened the door for me, you took me home, it was late, and you were caring enough to take me all the way to home.
Right.
The way you talk directly, give me attention, I was like, okay.
Tiffany, Do you ladies, are you ladies reading too much into something that, because honestly, like, or how many times have I walked with you home? You need to tell me if I've been yeah.
You're wife.
If
you did, something else.
So that
I
is
want to go home directly. So you have a wife.
right. Because I mean, are you guys reading in too much? What is the narrative here? With that is the definition of leading on and defrauding.
I believe there are like two aspects around it. There's both weights weigh heavy. There's the space where, sometimes we do read too much, and it could be because maybe I have that expectation.
With that particular
guy. So if I've had interest in him and I have never maybe communicated, and then he kindly just takes on the good gesture to walk me home or ensure that I get home safe, even just to get to know my parents, just because, a good friend.
A good friend,
yeah. And if I'm there, man, I will expect. I will definitely have high expectations and expectations that will probably, that this, whatever this is, would lead into a romantic relationship. Although then, there are also ladies who are very guarded. And so there are ladies who, if they will not assume, so when they're asking, it's not like they've made that assumption, but they need that space to be clear. So that just in case they're not thinking in that space, and you probably are thinking into that space, they let you know early, so that again you don't end up hurting each other. So I think it weighs heavy on both sides. Yeah, there are those who read in too much, but because maybe they're already in that space, mostly those who are already in that space.
Can we agree for that when it comes to defrauding and the Bible, and because this is Kuza and we keep it biblical centric as we can, we need to agree that there has to be a common ground. Now, gentlemen and lady, we need to agree here, King Just, that biblically speaking, defrauding is sin and leading on is sin, when especially you do not get to the end of the road.
Yeah.
I mean,
and just to pull it from what she's saying, so I can come in. It's not only ladies who read too much, even men read too much.
Even men read too much.
Agreed.
Did you have a guy that read too much?
Yeah.
Man, this is a diploma, right? We have still certificate level.
To be honest, just like men, there are ladies who genuinely would love to just pursue a genuine friendship.
Right.
And so
no strings attached.
No strings attached. So for me, I'd feel okay if I even go to the extent of asking the guy, how you doing spiritually, how you doing in every aspect, and desiring to just be very involved in this person's life, just for friendship's sake. You understand?
Right.
But then, manze,
What do we get?
when they start concluding, and then for me it was even worse because it came in form of a text. I don't think you understand the kind of friendship I want to pursue with you. I want us to be just friends, and I'm thinking, but I was just a friend. I mean, where is all this coming from? So they are men who actually really.
King Just, I mean, anything on this before we now get into the meat of this?
Yes, I think I have suffered the same.
You are which one? You are victim or being defrauded or defrauded.
Yes, being defrauded, and it happens once when it is somebody that you are interested in, and they really respond to your love language. They want their quality time. They engage you. You talk with them. You are interested in them, and eventually somebody tells you, I see you as a brother. My brother. I've never thought you about in terms of a romantic relationship, and yes, and it is damaging because at times you might end up blocking yourself from a rightful partner. You might end up blocking yourself from a rightful partner, whereby you're just wasting time with this person.
Right.
And also you realize that somebody might be interested in you, and then it's like, I think this lady, she has already this guy.
Yeah.
And so you end up losing an opportunity of having someone in your
Right.
life.
And honestly, and some ladies, and if you're watching here, please, one, do not misread or do not overread, because if you now start bringing prayer requests of, oh, I'm looking for someone to marry, I'm getting older, and there was a guy who was honestly interested, and he said you do not look like, you're just like a brother, or you're just like a sister. You need to watch out, man. And you're saying, much as we need to guard against leading on and defrauding, you all need to put your spiritual antennas up, man. The Lord might be speaking. Anyway, although
culture has taught the ladies something very interesting. So we've been taught how the man should always communicate.
okay.
So the result sometimes, okay, I know there are times where a lady would say you're just a brother, but then to be very honest,
They're really meaning that you should
they really mean
say something
more than a
you
brother.
need to get to say exactly where this is, because you will remain a brother when I don't want you to remain a brother.
so sometimes
Yeah.
she's just taking a brother, it's just a cliche, but in akili yake anawish tu
Exactly.
manze,
Exactly.
just say the word.
Yeah. Although pia
Neno moja tu.
men
Neno more
also,
than tatulia.
let's not really pinpoint on the ladies, because there are gents who also sisters on us. They tell us we are sisters in Christ and we need to remain with that. What would you do? I mean, in that context, you just remain a sister.
And I think the reason why we thought of writing this article was now to create those shields. Because when, for example, the Bible is primarily written for believers, for the children of God, so that they can guard against outsiders, against the world, against the flesh, and against the devil. So we know and we accept that intentionally doing these things, so that this person will develop attractions and feelings towards you, and then you do not score the goal at the end of it. It's sin. So, but then you also need to tell people, now this is how you guard yourself, so that you don't find yourself in entanglements or situationships.
Right.
And that's the main gist of this article.
All right. Well, moving forward from situationships, and I know we have too many situationships going on in this city of ours and across the globe. Now, what does leading on look like? We've defined what it is, and so can you guys help our viewers to just understand what does leading on look like? Yeah.
No, so love languages are the best things to define it by. So words of affirmation, quality time, and gifts,
Touch.
and acts of service. And so you need to understand that some people can get to learn your love language very fast, and one of it I will just talk about it is words. So ladies are majorly oriented to love words and to want someone to appreciate their physique, all right? Give them, affirm they have a lot of insecurities, sorry to say, but when you give them like affirmations, you're a good person, you're beautiful, you can achieve much, so they get attracted to you and they would want to hear that more. And so when you say those words all the time, and you can notice there is more attractions to you, all right? Then you are realizing you're putting yourself in danger, because now you have to define yourself and know this. My love language is words, and I respond to words like this. I think about that man so much or that woman so much because of what they tell me rather than what they say. That is word.
Okay.
And so you have to now then start asking yourself another question. Do I want to continue listening to these words from this specific person? Like, that is the main question.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe when you're thinking about words, now I will lead you on, or she will lead you on by those words, and maybe that person doesn't know he's leading you on. Maybe it's just a good pastor encouraging you.
It might be a good person encouraging you, right?
but it's sometimes not.
Yeah. Because at what point do we stop? At what point do we guard against someone? Just as maybe you can, how do I stop talking to a lady? Because because I'm a guy, or a lady talking to a guy, at what point do I know I cannot say this on them? Nowadays, for instance, we have everybody just calling everyone dear. Hi, sweetie. Hi, and it go physically, nice, sweetie. Oh, sweetie. And it's a girl calling, hi, sweetie. And then she's calling a friend, sweetie. And then the guy comes, sweetie, dear. At what point do we guard ourselves against careless words, honestly?
Yeah, because I think it's important to think about that. One, of course, before you even talk about the person who is receiving this, it's also good to think about the person who is expressing all these, words of affirmation, giving gifts, quality time, touch, and all the other things that you're talking about, the love languages. It's good to, first of all, especially as Christians, I think it's very important for us to be very honest. If I am not interested, it's good to set a standard from the word go. From the word go,
Right.
So that if I'm interested in you, I think that way it will be much fair.
Okay.
If just as I approach and I'm like, this is the relationship with you,
Okay.
either there is someone else I'm seeing, or we cannot do this, or we're just friends, I think it is good. And also it's good because when a man introduces even a lady, again, it's good to know, to other friends as a friend, it's good to know that's what really that man means, this a friend,
Yes.
that's what that man means, because for us, we don't say, we don't talk so much of our feelings, so to speak, it's just from our minds, and what we say is it, if I introduce this, these are, and I really decorate it, I introduce you, this someone so close to me, to my heart, this and all that,
Right.
Again, there could be something, so I think it is good for, first of all, before we think about the person who's receiving this, it's good for us to be very honest.
Okay.
And also for the person who's receiving, I think it is also good for one to learn to guard their hearts, whereby don't give in yourself so much to a person who has not gone to, it's good to ask for clarity. If you feel like, this person, where are you leading me on? Why are you doing
Like
this?
these words would be-
Where are we
Where are we
headed?
going?
Yeah.
Where are we headed in this relationship? Because
Right.
I don't want to give my heart, I pour my feelings to you, I share with you my life, and then only for the person who was meant to be with me for a lifetime to be seeing me with you every time and thinks you are in a relationship and cannot approach me. So I think I think it is good for also the other person. Express yourself, speak out your heart, say, hey, I think this is not healthy anymore.
Okay.
At that point that you realize, this person is coming too much into my space.
All right. Well, moving forward, because our time is quite limited, we need to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Let's just mention, not in passing as such, but quite briefly, what are some other things that we can identify as leading on? How does it look like? Any other things that we probably want to throw in line with what we talked about in the blog as well? Just pass by them as we move on.
I think that also, like you said, it also comes from love language. And so maybe let me talk about touch.
Mhm.
Honestly, if you hold my hand, okay, my love language is touch, at least for me, I'm aware. So,
VV.
Nasikia vivi. Anyway. So if a gentleman just comes in every time we're talking or we're walking, he wants to hold my hand, I will generally just
Your mind starts
perceive.
running, right?
Yeah, I will perceive that this person has a different intention with me. And so you can't blame me for making that assumption even if I come to ask for clarification, because
You're touching.
do you
touching
hold
everyone.
exactly, would you hold your sister's hand everywhere? I mean,
Yeah.
if you had a sister, would you hold, whether they're old or young,
Yeah, right.
would
right.
you keep holding their hand everywhere you're going? Do you
And
understand?
maybe-
Yeah, and actually touch has a very interesting way to connect with my emotions. And probably that's why, okay, so for gentlemen, maybe you didn't know this, but maybe let me help you understand. When a woman gives birth, the first thing that doctors do is give the child to the woman so that there's a skin-to-skin connection.
Right.
So that grows the bond between the mother and the baby. And sometimes I've seen it in Western movies. Sometimes they also do that with the dad. So skin to skin is done with the mother and the father. So you see there's already an emotional connection between touch. I mean, between touch, skin to skin
Right.
touch. So I would really be concerned if a guy would really, if you continue, every time you talk, you want to put your hand on my shoulder, or we just want to, just touch here. Even if it doesn't look sensual, there's something it also does in the mind of a person. So even for ladies, if we keep, every time we want to talk, we want to
touch the guy and
exactly. Or even when we're hugging, we want to
cling a little
longer or press against
Lean on
more
me.
forcefully. Honestly, I think we really need to be also very careful in how we express how we are physically towards each other.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe I can say something around that.
Quite briefly though, yes.
Yeah. I think what happens in physical touch is that people express themselves in their language. If for her is physical touch is her love language, then she will be more touchy. So if it is somebody
sounds so bad.
Yeah. So I think it is good. Yeah, it's good because for example, my love language is quality time. And whatever time that I spend, for example, with my fiancé, that's quality time for me. Maybe for her, it's gifts.
She's pretty.
So for me, I give her gifts, and that's the way she understands. So she'll give me gifts because that's her language. So she wants me to express myself in her language, to give her gifts. It doesn't mean that she's giving me gifts. That's what I want. Right. For me, I want quality time. So I think it's also good to make that clarity.
All right.
So I think for you, if it is physical touch, then avoid touching. Yes. If mine is quality time, I should avoid. No, if I know your gift is your love language is gifts, I should avoid giving you gifts.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Now let's move on. Let's mention like maybe two more things that are in line with.
So another thing is that person whom you are afraid is leading you on. Are you spending exclusive time with them?
Just the two.
Yeah, just the two of you. Are you going to more dates than normal? Are you sitting in private places? Are you having exclusive conversations in the night? Long, prolonged phone calls that I kata, miss katiwe kata.
Right.
Another thing also, the other thing I also noticed in friends who are keeping friends, they tell you, hey, Mavo. You were really, it never came in your mind. Like you are not even thinking about it. And then friends tell you, you look good together. And then you develop those ideas, and then somebody really invests, one of you invests, and then
the other one is just even oblivious.
Yeah, mambo story in a chapa, then the two of you are like, story. So it just breaks a good friendship from nowhere,
Right.
And then the last one I would really point out is the question that I would like to ask myself if I'm afraid I'm being led on is, am I receiving these things with gladness?
Right.
Okay, these words, this time, these gifts, am I receiving them with gladness, and am I giving them with gladness?
Well, I mean, if somebody is being led on, they're probably enjoying what you're doing.
Yes.
So how do they receive that?
So then, if I realize I am, people are saying this stuff,
right.
I am having exclusive moments, I am having long conversations, and myself, I am giving time, I am giving gifts, receptivity, then it means then I am setting myself for a disappointment.
Interesting.
So
all right. Well, allow me to jump to the next thing, the article that you guys cited. And we are really saying, number one, we're trying to break it down, but we're saying that you are responsible for your heart. I think here we are putting on the spot both the defrauder and the defraudee. The leader and the leadee. Now it's you're responsible for your heart. Can you share something about that? Who is this? Tiffany.
Yeah, I think the same way the Bible calls us to guard our hearts, for it is a wellspring of life.
Okay.
Our actions, our thoughts, our words always reflect what is in our hearts. And so, I don't know, but sometimes you would find yourself referring to this person so much in every conversation, oh, Nani was telling me, oh, Nani does. You know a lot about them.
I saw that in too, but in
Exactly.
fact, another day I was with Tip and
Exactly. Yeah. So what we don't understand is our hearts have play a very big role in our lives, right?
Okay.
And so if we've set ourselves treasure in that person, it will definitely reflect in either our words, our actions, our thoughts. Even sometimes, have you ever met someone who they confuse you for a certain person? It's always that specific person. Every time I want to call you, my mind has already registered a certain name. Oh, Saddam. Oh, sorry, Mabo.
Right.
And it's because maybe they're not really, first, they're not keeping themselves accountable with, with people who will guide them, people who will be intentional with their heart, people who will actually point them and tell them, okay, fine, your heart is really invested. Do you think you're actually setting this person as an idol for yourself? Or do you also think that maybe you have really invested so much time in this person and now all your attention has been taken away and everything in your world just rings that person? Do you understand?
Okay.
So I think the same way scripture calls us to be very careful about what we plant in our hearts, we really need to be very careful how we do that. Sometimes we may not process it in our minds, and maybe that's why it will be really difficult at first when it's told to us. It will be really difficult to agree to it, but then we really need to be very careful. Sometimes some people don't know their love language. So if you don't know your love language, I think it's safer if you set boundaries.
Yeah.
All right.
Set very clear boundaries so that even if you see you're crossing them, then you can be able to really retract and communicate.
Right.
Communication is very
Yeah.
important.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Probably one last thought or something.
yeah, the most important thing that I think we always do as human beings is throwing blame. And you have to understand it is your heart, it is your emotions. You're investing yourself, sometimes your money and your time. And so God has given you your heart and you have to be responsible with it. You look at Colossians, it says it's God's heart, 1:16, everything belongs to Him. But in Proverbs 23:36, it says, my son, give me your heart. God has given you some stuff you have responsibility over.
Okay.
And so stop throwing blames and first ask yourself a question, like what the things we talked earlier, and then start guarding yourself as she has told us.
Okay.
I think I'll summarize my point and say that we are not against you leading on. We are against the defrauding part. If you are interested in someone and you want them for a relationship,
Wait, you just
okay.
said you're not against us leading on. Are you saying it is okay to lead on?
No, what I'm saying is this.
Yes.
If you are interested to be in a relationship with someone, I think it is very important you be sure of what you want.
All right.
Yeah.
And so that as you're making whatever moves towards that lady, towards that guy, yes, don't just pull them close to you and then you see some few weaknesses here and there, and without even having shared your intentions to them, you just decide to withdraw, and yet they had already shown some interest towards you. So I think it is good for as a guy, as a lady, be sure of what you want for a wife or a husband before you decide to move on and try to bring this person close to you.
All right.
Yeah.
Guard your heart. That's what you're saying, guys. Guard your heart. Remember, leading on and defrauding, all unacceptable. You can only lead on your wife because you will fulfill the end of that desire. If you can't fulfill the end of a desire, that is defrauding. Leading on in a situation where it is not a married relationship always leads to defrauding. You're going to do something about that. So guard your heart. But I mean, let's just throw this outside for you guys as we respond to the third one. And we are looking at how then do I do this guarding of my heart? I think just as you can, is it just as you're walking us through that one? How do I guard my heart? But as I talk about guarding my heart, honestly, okay, fine, I'm responsible about guarding my heart. But am I not also responsible for that other person's heart? To some extent. I mean, what's the conversation here?
Yeah, of course, as a Christian, I think you have to be responsible, not only to yourself, but also even for the other person.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to be concerned, you have to take care of their lives, because this is a human being. It's about their lives we are talking about in this context, about their love life. And so I think it is very important for us to, the biblical values demands that we be our brother, our sister's keeper.
All right.
Yeah, so I think it's very important.
All right.
Again, for outside there, we want to say that it is true what has been written down there about Blaise Pascal. One, of course, in a human being, there is that vacuum that only God can fill. Nothing else, no man, no woman, no drug, no nothing in this world that can fill that vacuum in a man's life. So I think the first point is find your fulfillment, your satisfaction in God before you start, you try to pursue filling these inner longings from a human being. I think it is very important that you first of all find your fulfillment in God before you even try to think of another person in your life.
All right.
So now Saddam can take us through.
Any other thing that how do we guard your heart, because we are coming to the end of this conversation.
Yeah,
we need those practical things.
Yeah.
Now, just before you do that, please, you're probably talking to somebody who does not even understand what it means to have a God-shaped vacuum. They're probably thinking, oh, I'm actually having a heart problem right now. Just in a few seconds, what do you mean there's a God-shaped vacuum, and what do you mean I need to fill it up?
Actually, in us human beings, without having God in our lives, outside Christ, there is always that emptiness, and that many people have tried to find satisfaction to fill this emptiness from drugs. Some have engaged in sexual immorality. There is always a lot, and the more you engage in these things, the more you realize, the more empty you become in you. And maybe you're wondering, I've tried all these kinds of things outside there, but still within me I feel more and more empty. And you're wondering, how can I fill this emptiness? Then I want to say that this is the best point, that you want to try Christ in your life, and allow Christ to have that place in your life, to occupy that space in your life. Let him come into your life, and whatever we have experienced, I can tell you for sure out there, you will experience the same, whereby that emptiness, that longing, you've tried to fill with all manner of substance, relationship, sex, drugs, that emptiness, Christ fills that in our hearts.
Fantastic.
So try Christ.
All right, thanks so much.
Yeah.
We continue.
A very practical way, give your heart to God. Like, let him be your love relationship. Knowing that he is the only satisfier, okay? Knowing that he is all-powerful, his wisdom is profound, that him alone can advise you in your life, even in relationship issues. Like, that is the main thing for me. The other thing I would address is cupid friends. In relation to that point, don't lean on what people say so much. Jeremiah reminds us in 17 verses 5, do not lean on human wisdom. It is misleading.
All right.
So lean on God's wisdom. They will say, they observe things, they are good. Those are opinions, all right? So give yourself a break, think about it, evaluate what they say, see if you're interested genuinely and not just being moved by what they're saying. Especially, they're usually people of influence in our lives. They do not make decisions in your life. They just give you opinion and suggestions.
Right.
The third thing that maybe I would wish they need to help us with this, especially for ladies, and I think for me it is important. Speak out. You see someone leading you on, speak out. Don't be afraid. If you feel you are afraid, ask God for boldness. If he has given us boldness to do the most difficult thing, is to preach the gospel to people.
Or talk to brothers,
yes.
Man, like tell, if it is this guy leading you on and you're feeling like that, you just come and say, you see my boy, good, that guy. I think what's going on.
Yeah.
But I think most ladies are getting hard, honestly, because they're like, oh, this is Africa, you can't speak, you can't share worldwide, you can't share your feelings to a guy. Like, then you should have been taken a tree. Because, you have feelings, man, and your feelings then mean to be able to talk about your feelings.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it doesn't make a lady look prostitute-ish, or do
Yeah,
you are loose.
Yeah,
No.
and if you're afraid he will react foolishly, it doesn't nullify the wisdom that you went to talk to him. If
Exactly.
he reacts foolishly, then he's a foolish man, and that informs you that really he didn't deserve in the first place.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well. This conversation might not end for now, and we really need to land the plane. Now, if you read the blog, a very interesting statement that was written right at the end of it. Many men and women have deep and lasting wounds from relationships because a couple enjoyed emotional or physical closeness without a lasting, durable commitment. Cheap intimacy feels real for the moment, but you pay what you get what you pay for. And you cheap. The Bible says in 1 Thessalonians, this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you should abstain from sexual immorality, that each one of you knows how to handle their body in sanctification and honor, not in the passions of lust like Gentiles who do not know God. Anytime we get into this defrauding and leading on, then it means we're really challenging the reality of our claims that we know God. To defraud is to take advantage of somebody, to stir them up, yet you're not able to fulfill the desire that you just stirred up. If you're leading me on, then you'd better fulfill it. But that's a problem because you're going to be prostitutes or fornicators and all those things. So please, young people outside there, as you land the plane today, be reminded. If somebody is leading you on and you're a lady and you feel this one is really getting away with it and I'm honestly feeling hooked up and it doesn't look like he knows, talk about it, speak up. It is legitimate for you to speak your feelings. Gentlemen, if a girl is showing you those thighs and cleavage and she's constantly doing that and wrapping her hand around you and you're feeling all warm and she's just saying, oh, you're a good friend and brother, you gotta speak up because we need to kill this thing from especially the circle of us believers. Well, thank you so much, Vic. Thank you so much, Kim Just and Tiffany for this conversation. This is Kuza Digital Discipleship Podcast. Until we do this next time, get reading, get downloading, get connecting with us. God bless you. Tuonane baadaye.